Hey, what up, guys and gals? Jesse here from Long Lost Robots. Today, I want to talk about the company Behringer. I want to talk about intellectual property, and I want to ask the question: are they Robin Hood, or are they really just Prince of Thieves? Let's talk some gear. All right, guys. So as I'm getting more into synthesizers and synth music and buying drum machines again, because I've owned drum machines my whole life, but these days I'm not making rock and roll. I'm doing like pop music and synth pop and having a wonderful time writing this type of music. But as I get into the synth world, I realize there's this small group of people that are really upset with the company Behringer. Now, Behringer is a European company, I believe, and they really specify in making cheap and expensive gear. And as the synth world comes along and they have been dipping their feet in the synth world, I noticed some people coming out who are really knowledgeable and really care and love synthesizers, and I understand that, but they have a really big problem with Behringer, what they would call stealing intellectual property. Now, there's no doubt about it. If you're taking a brand new product and copying that exact product and you're trying to sell it for less with cheap parts, that's not cool. But we really got to look at this from a moral perspective. I think the first question is, morally, is this a good thing? Should we support Behringer if they are stealing other people's products? Now, first off, this is going to be a big one, and this is just my opinion. But if you are using Google, Facebook, Instagram, if you're using these big alphabet letter companies like Apple, Samsung, if you are using these products, my friends, we do not have the moral high ground. I promise you that. These companies stifle creativity. They hold monopolies on other companies such as phones. Apple is destroying Samsung as we know it. They are the biggest providers of phones throughout the world, and no one can just come into that game and be like, hey, check this out, because they monopolize the whole system. The app stores, whether it's Google Play or whether it's the App Store alone, you cannot get into these companies on your own. You must go through them. You must go through Google Play. You must go through Apple. If you are on, if you're using Google, Google has a monopoly on the search engine business, the search engine world, and YouTube. These companies, I'm sorry to tell you, do not have the moral high ground whatsoever. All of these companies have attacked freedom of speech, such as Facebook, Twitter, which is now owned by Elon Musk, by the way, and Google's YouTube is the antithesis of what we are here in America. And these are American companies. Let's not forget that. They were started here in America. I'm from California. So morally, guys, I think we have to be real careful when we're looking at other people and other companies going, hey, it's immoral to buy from that company, or hey, you shouldn't be doing this, and I'm going to tell you why. Well, first off, give me a good reason. Are they really stealing new intellectual property? Now, for me, Behringer is giving me the opportunity to have synthesizers that I could not just afford. Really quickly, on a side note, guys, I am building my life back up from a series of mistakes that I made in throughout my 20s and my 30s. I'm going to be 44 this year. It's 2023. I'll be 44. And I have my studio here. I'm a homeowner here in California. I'm married. I got my job. I do not make money off of music, okay? I have a 9-to-5 job. And Behringer has allowed me to get drum machines back in my hand. This is the second mixer from Behringer I've owned. I've owned a Mackie mixer. It was a junk, to be honest. This is the second Behringer mixer that I've owned. I bought one a long time ago, years ago. So again, morally, it's very difficult for any of us to come around and tell people where they should be spending their money and where they shouldn't be spending their money, especially if you're making money off of Google, YouTube, and you're making your living. If you're a YouTuber and you're making money from Google, it's just my opinion, guys, but you should be very, very careful trying to take the moral high ground on anything if you are making your money from YouTube. And believe me, I would love to make money off of YouTube. I got no problem saying that. And that brings me to another point. We as free people in this world, wherever you are, need to take advantage of every opportunity that you have, whether that's a good deal on something, whether it's getting to know somebody. We have to take advantage of whatever deal that we can get. Like I was saying before, I've had to rebuild my life, and Behringer has allowed me to really acquire some gear at a great price again. And I have to take advantage of it because I can't just spend my money on $2,000 Moog synths. There's another Moog synth that just came out new. I'm going to post a little picture up above. It is a $5,000 Moog. And from what I can see, the technology is not new at all. You can't save presets in it. It's got a beautiful cherry finish. And I understand it is a beautiful synth. I understand that with great parts made by hand by people here. From what I understand in America, please correct me below in the comments below if I'm wrong, but I believe Moog is an American company. Anyways, $5,000 for one synth, I cannot afford. So gear that I do own from Behringer, let's get very clear. I have a brand new little mixer. It's just a basic, mixer. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like a Xenix. It's the QX12222. I have a little patch bay from Behringer. I have a drum machine called the RD6. It's basically like a 606 clone. I have the Model D. And then very recently, I just purchased the DeepMind 12 from Behringer, and it is like a Juno and a Jupiter clone. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video more. But this is really the first synth that has allowed me to really understand how synthesizers work, and I love it. It sounds beautiful. It's analog and digital. It's an awesome synth. We'll talk about that more. We also need to understand how companies can take on the market in different shapes. Some companies specify in high-end gear, and God bless them for that. Some companies specialize in expensive gear. I have a microphone from Warm. It's a WA-47. It is an older mic. I believe it's just called the 47. It's a tube microphone. It is 40 years old at least. It's one of the most standard microphones you can get. It's a $10,000 microphone. I got it for $1,000. It's a beautiful microphone from Warm Audio. One thing about companies that you need to know, it's like especially with Apple. Apple right now has really went backwards and started creating less expensive phones. That's because the market is demanding cheaper phones. So if Apple just stuck to the $1,000 plus phones, they would be in bad shape right now because they sell phones, watches, AirPods, all that good stuff. That is how you encompass the whole market from the low end to the high end. Now, with a company like Moog, if they want to stay in the high end, or if you're Erica Synths and you're making $2,000 drum machines, that's awesome. That's beautiful. That's great. And if you can afford it, more power to you. I am 100% a capitalist. But my friends, if another company is going to come around and offer me a synth for around $300 from technology that is 40 years old and maybe close to 50 years old by now, stuff from the 70s, my friends, they have all the ability to do that. They have the right to do that, and they're going to do that. And I suggest for any company right now is to get a hold of that small desktop synth fad, if you want to call it, that's going around right now. But I don't really think it's a fad. It's here to stay. So there are plenty of companies out there that can tackle the whole market from cheap gear to expensive gear, and they're out there. And the great thing about that, guys, what you need to realize too, or should realize, that when Behringer allows you to buy a product that's very inexpensive, I know in my heart it will push other people to get more expensive gear and realize, okay, this is a nice piece of gear, but now I want to try something more expensive, because that's already how I feel. Immediately when I bought the Roland JU06, it is a beautiful piece of gear. I think it's definitely one of their number one selling boutique synthesizer. But I realized it just wasn't enough. So I went to Behringer and I got the DeepMind 12, and it is a Juno Jupiter type clone. It's inspired by them, but in no way is it the same. Now I know Behringer is ready to make like a Juno clone, and I'm sure it's going to sell really good if it's around $800. And yeah, it's going to be made of cheaper parts, and it's not going to be as good, but I guarantee you it will sound just as good. So believe me, Behringer is working on more gear. The thing that everybody jokes about right now is how Behringer is continually promoting new gear, and it hasn't even come out yet. Well, that gear is coming out, my friends, and they are cloning everything that they can get their hands on. They have the Toro coming out. They have the Selena coming out. These are all copies. They're going to call them by different names. These are very cheap, inexpensive gear. The Prophet clone is already out. It's coming into Sweetwater as we speak. So if you go and pre-order it, you're going to get one coming in. It's $400, my friends. You cannot argue with people who have to take advantage of the spot they are in their life and the money they have and the opportunity to get some synthesizers in their hands and make some music and maybe change the world musically, because there are artists out there that need this gear, and it's not going to be held by just a few gatekeepers and say you can't have that. You can't do that. Help me. You look at Nord Synths; they're $4,000. And so if you're not making money off of playing live, and that's not your livelihood, we have to have affordable gear out there. And companies need to realize the desktop game isn't going anywhere, and an expensive gear, if that's where you want, if that's where you make your money up from, and you can sustain yourself as a business, God bless you. But my friends, you companies need to know now that you have to have multiple price points. Case in point, right behind me, I'm just going to switch around. The MPC one. The MPC one from Akai. You have to look at the line that they have in the MPCs. It goes from $700 this year, in the beginning of this year, 2023. They had it at $600 on their website. The MPC. I see people in comments from Behringer going, "Hey Behringer, make an MPC clone." First off, if you need an MPC, there is one here for $600. You don't need Behringer to come along and rip it off completely and build an MPC and sell it for $300. That would probably be crap. And I would not condone that. I have the right to say, no, Behringer, I am not buying your outright ripoff from Akai. And if they tried, I'm telling you right now, it just wouldn't work. And there is gear that Behringer has put out that I don't support. But that is my choice to whether I need to support Behringer and those pieces of gear and send them a message, or I say, yes, I'm going to buy this gear, but this gear I'm not going to buy. Because it's the same thing with working with Google or Apple or Facebook or any of these companies. Okay, I'll use these services, but I don't agree with you here. I don't agree with what you're doing over here, but I like what you're doing here. And that is the approach that is going to win this fight, or this, intellectual property stealing fight that is going along in the YouTube world and all that good stuff. And remember, my friends, just because you have a setup and you're on YouTube and all of that, that is all online. The real thing that matters is the real world, and can you get yourself a piece of gear and land it and enjoy it and make music from it. The last point is you can only imagine if guitars from Les Paul and Leo Fender and all the technology that went into that, all the R&D, the research and development that went into those guitars, and the specs and the size I'm a guitar player, I'm a bass player. I thank God every day that somehow they weren't able to copyright every aspect of those guitars, because we would not have cheap guitars today. Fender would not be making Squiers today, because they would have the market on everything. They would just hold the market. Gibson, all of that. And these companies try high-end gear, and they failed miserably, especially Gibson almost went out of business a few years ago, around 5 years ago. I think there was some talks. So we have to realize, you can only imagine if these copyrights were held on pickup wiring and all of these different things, fret size and the fret size of the board and the tuning pegs. If that were the case, we would not have inexpensive guitars today. And believe me, these days, I am buying more expensive guitars. I just spent $1,000 last year on my Reverend McCarley bass. It's a beautiful bass. I spent $1,000 on that. It's probably the last bass I will ever buy. I'm 44. My warm microphone, it's a beautiful microphone. It will probably be the last mic that I buy. There won't be any reason for me to buy more gear. And just to circle everything back and end this video, my friends, like I said, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I really don't mind talking about it, because I'm hoping if somebody's out there and they can understand, and you're a musician or an artist, you can understand to stay on the right path and you're not building your life back up. Yeah, maybe, I would have a few more $1,000 guitars or a $2,000 synths. I would maybe have some of those things if I wasn't building my life back up. And again, don't feel sorry for me. I'm a homeowner in California, Southern California. So please, no tears needed over here. I have a beautiful home, beautiful wife and daughter. But my friends, swinging over here back to the DeepMind 12 right now, June 2023 on Sweetwater here in America, in the States, you can get the DeepMind 12 desktop for $600. My friends, I am promising you right now, if you want a Juno clone, you don't need the JU06 from Roland. Spend the money on the DeepMind 12 now. I don't know if they're going to make more of these. I know they're pumping synthesizers out like crazy. They have all these new ideas and small desktop synths for around $70, $80, $100. Just unthinkable prices that are going to hit the market really soon. And if you're a synth creator out there and you're making synths, I would highly recommend you keep your high end and your low end gear, or have a price point of low, mid, high. And that's how you stay, that's how you take claim of the whole market. If you're just pumping out high end gear, don't be pissed off that no one's buying your $2,000 drum machine, okay? So anyways, guys and gals, that's it for me today. I just had to talk about the subject, and I need to get back on YouTube and start making some videos, which I love doing. So I'm out of here. Take care. If you've lasted this long, think about subscribing. I would love to have you here and grow the channel. We're talking gear, we're talking music. I'm not going to be doing a lot of tutorials because there's just so many people who are so good at doing tutorials, and I'm just not that. We're going to be doing songwriting over here, having a good time and finishing our projects. Anyways, guys, I hope you are making some beautiful music, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.